Hey guys, this is your host Rabbit, and welcome to another Conquest of Azeroth 1 to 30 class showcase, today featuring the Cultist. The Cultist is a support damage dealer that uses cloth armor and is a servant of the old gods. They can summon eldritch entities and they use mana and insanity as resources. Cultists are the true embodiment of the old gods. They can summon tentacles into Zoth, bend the will of their enemies to force them to do their bidding, and transform into living avatars of the faceless, gaining huge buffs to their power, all while attempting to keep their own minds sane enough to avoid certain death. With that being said, let's jump straight into the starting abilities. At level 1, we gain access to 4 abilities, the first of which being Eldritch Strike. It's an instant cast melee range on a 3-second cooldown, deals 100% weapon damage to an enemy target as shadow damage, generates 1 Void Rune. We also get Eldritch Mending. It's a 1.82 second cast, heal a friendly target for 342 to 437, and reduces your insanity by 3. The third ability we have is Blade of N'Zoth. It requires 2 Void Runes, and you imbue your weapon with the dark power of N'Zoth before striking the target, dealing 212 to 280 shadow damage. Has a chance to summon a Tentacle of N'Zoth. Generates 5 insanity plus an additional 10 if a tentacle is summoned. Lastly, we get Realign Self. It's a channeled ability. You begin to meditate, draining your insanity and regenerating 20% of your base mana over 10 seconds. Can only be used outside of combat. At level 4, we gain access to Bend Will. You bend the target humanoid, demon, or undead's mind to the will of the old gods. If used against an NPC, the target will be bent to your control for the next 30 minutes after a 1-second delay. If used against the player, this effect has no delay, but a significantly reduced duration. The unit charmed by this ability works as a primary pet, and therefore does not function in conjunction with other primary pets. This does not include tentacles. At level 7, we gain access to Psychic Mockery. It's an instant cast that taunts the target to attack you. If the target is not already attacking you, they also suffer a large amount of shadow damage, generates 1 Void Rune. At level 8, we gain access to Psychic Wrath. You assault the target enemy's mind, dealing 115 to 122 shadow damage, generating 1 Void Rune. At level 10, we gain access to Gaze of Cthulhu. Blasts an enemy with the power of the old god Cthulhu, dealing 119 to 154 shadow damage and regenerating 6% of your maximum mana. Damage dealt increased by 1% for each stack of insanity. At level 11, we gain access to the aura Twilight Zealotry. Increases all threat generated by your shadow damage effects by 60%. At level 13, we gain access to 2 abilities. The first of which being Awakening. Brings a dead player back to life with 2200 health and 1650 mana. Cannot be cast when in combat. We also get Empire's Grasp. Instantly teleport an enemy target to your position, taunting them to focus their attacks on you and slowing their movement speed by 40% for 8 seconds. Targets immune to stun effects cannot be targeted by this ability. At level 15, we get Twilight Shieldtoss. Hurls a cursed shield at an enemy, dealing 23 to 30 shadow damage, reducing their movement speed by 50% for 5 seconds, and bouncing to 3 additional enemies. All hit enemies by this ability are taunted. This ability generates a large amount of threat. At level 16, we gain Horrorbolt. It's a 1-second cast that requires 1 Void Rune, deals 137 to 142 shadow damage to an enemy target. This spell can be cast while moving, generates 5 insanity. At level 19, we get Tentacle of N'Zoth. It's an instant cast on an 8-second cooldown, summons a Tentacle of N'Zoth that will deal shadow damage to your enemies for 24 seconds, generates 10 insanity. At 22, we gain Whisper. It's an instant cast 20-second cooldown, instantly heals a friendly target for 119 to 161, generates 10 insanity. At 25, we get Edict of Gluttony. It's a 2-second cast on a 10-second cooldown. Curse an enemy for 1 minute. Allies that deal damage to the cursed target have a chance to be healed for 63 to 66. At 28, we gain Eldritch Armor. It's an instant cast 10-second cooldown. Applies a shield to the target, absorbing up to 429 to 436 damage. Lasts 30 seconds. While the shield holds, the target will also be healed for 44 to 47 every 3 seconds. And lastly, at level 30, we gain access to Vision of Doom. It's a 10-minute cooldown. Peer into the endless void, transforming you into a faceless destroyer for 30 seconds. While transformed, you gain 1 insanity and 1 void rune every 1 second. In addition, your healing done is increased by 30% and your spell haste is increased by 50%. Alright guys, that wraps up all of the abilities that you'll be receiving as a cultist. Unfortunately, the Cultist is extremely weak right now due to the fact that they deal the lowest damage in the game, so it was really hard to get quality PvP footage, seeing as how I could hardly fight anyone 1v1. So that being said, I'm going to roll some clips, that way you can get an idea of what you're going to be expecting as a Cultist in PvP. Alright guys, hope you all enjoyed that. I know it wasn't as good as some of my other montages, but like I said, the cultists are suffering from really low damage at the moment, so it was really hard to get some quality footage, so I liked it to show clips that showcase more of the mechanics of the abilities, as opposed to me just killing everyone in the battleground. Overall, cultists have some real potential. Their abilities are all cool, and with a few damage upgrades and some improvements in their AoE damage, the cultists could be an extremely viable pick for anyone wanting to mow down their enemies with the fury of the old gods. That's going to wrap it up for this showcase. Make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell down below. That way you'll be notified of my next video. This is your host Rabbit. Thanks for watching.